Here is the heart of the issue. Labour MPs are becoming more and more cynical, more hypocritical.
In the general election campaign, Labour leadership promised that if we won, we would step in and save the Grangemouth Refinery, retain those jobs and invest in its future. 6 months later, this hasn't happened yet.
Right, let's not beat around the bush here. Keir Starmer made a whole load of promises during the election campaign. He told us he'd fix things, save working-class jobs, protect the people, and secure a brighter future for this country. Fast forward 6 months, and what do we have? A complete failure to deliver. He's broken almost every promise, tossing them into the wind as though they meant nothing, treating the British public like disposable pawns in his political game. And the worst part? It's not just us he's letting down. Frankly, I never bought into his spiel. But now even members of his own party are starting to realize he's not keeping his word. Yes, you heard that right. Some Labour MPs, who would usually stay silent or toe the line when their leader falls short, are starting to speak out. They're feeling the weight of disappointment, and they're not afraid to show it. This isn't just about a politician failing to live up to their word anymore. This is a full-blown crisis inside the Labour Party. We're talking about a situation where even those who are supposed to be his allies are beginning to question whether Keir Starmer has any clue what it means to lead, or if he's just toying with the expectations of the public. One Labour MP actually stood up in Parliament, called him out, and demanded answers about why Starmer hasn't been doing what he promised during the election campaign. If you've been paying attention to the news, you'll have seen that one of his biggest broken promises was over Grangemouth Refinery. That was meant to be a big win for him, wasn't it? He promised he'd save it, keep the jobs, and invest in the local community. Well, let's take a good look at where we are now.
Then thousands of jobs will be lost and Scotland's national security will become massively weaker.
What's happened? Absolutely nothing. Zilch. If that refinery closes, thousands of jobs will be lost. And let's not forget, Scotland's national security will be massively weakened as well. And this isn't an exaggeration. The lack of action is putting the lives of Scottish people at risk, as well as our own. And now, look at us. We've got a government in power that should, at the very least, be able to step in, save jobs, and protect the citizens of this country. But what do we get instead? Nothing. No action. No response. And the worst part? Not a single person seems to be listening to the workers at Grangemouth. It's not just about empty promises and flowery rhetoric.
Long-term future. It is a really serious point. I take it very seriously and we'll do everything we can.
It's about action. Real, concrete action. And that's something this government doesn't seem to grasp. They're sweeping this under the carpet like it's no big deal, when it's a situation that demands leadership, commitment, and above all accountability. So, what does the Prime Minister do? Absolutely nothing. No clear plans, no real solutions. All we get are a string of half-baked excuses. It gets worse. Before July, the government had no plan whatsoever. None. The word plan didn't even exist in their vocabulary, unless, of course, it was to be trotted out for speeches at election rallies. But, of course, after being heavily pressured, they've now announced a so-called growth deal worth £100 million. And started funding Project Willow to find a solution. But come on, who's going to buy that? After all this time, after all the damage, they finally pull a plan out of their hat hand. It's already too little, too late. What's even more infuriating is that when they finally make a move, it's already too late. We're talking about the future of thousands of families, and this cannot be treated like some political game, just pushing the problem further down the line, hoping time will sort it out.
Mr. Speaker. In the general election campaign, Labour leadership promised that if we won, we would step in and save the Grangemouth Refinery, retain those jobs and invest in its future. 6 months later, this hasn't happened yet. If the refinery closes, then thousands of jobs will be lost and Scotland's national security will become massively weaker. Now that we are in power, I know that the government should use it to intervene and save the refinery jobs, protect Scotland and deliver on the promise to build Grangemouth for the future. Will the Prime Minister do that?
This is a really important point, Mr. Speaker, because before July there was no plan at all to support the workers at Grangemouth. Within weeks, and importantly, we announced a £100 million deal for a growth deal, and we're jointly funding Project Willow to find a viable long-term future. It is a really serious point. I take it very seriously, and we'll do everything we can to make sure that viable long-term future is there for the workers, for their communities, and all that rely on it.
Here is the heart of the issue. Labour MPs are becoming more and more cynical, more hypocritical, and increasingly disinterested in actually doing something meaningful for this country. They don't care about the people anymore. They don't care about the promises they made, and they certainly don't care about the change they promised to bring. And that's why, my friends, it's time to start questioning everything. Everything. What's going on here? Is the Labour Party actually working for the British people, or are they just serving their own political interests? I honestly feel like we're being played, manipulated on a scale we can't even fully comprehend. Give this video a like if you agree that Keir Starmer no longer has the ability to run the country. And let me know what you think about it in the comments.